What's inside this old train car? Well, before we go inside, I'm going to take you around and show you a few things, some detail about this old train car, the history of it and things. Then we'll go inside that door. Alright, here we are on the other side of the train car, the old train car. The son of the guy that put this here told me that it weighs 20 tons. He got it in here, got it off of a trailer and set it down on some supports, but yeah, 20-ton train car. Let me show you some more details on this thing. It's really neat to look at. Alright, here you can still kind of see the symbol there. Bangor and Aroostook Railroad serving northern Maine. Up there, you can see that. Bangor and Aroostook there. All the different numbers that you can still read. But this down here I thought was interesting, this old plate here, you can read that. Bangor and Aroostook Railroad Equipment Trust Series POF 1954 Girard Trust Corn Exchange Bank Trustee Owner Leasor. Right there. Trivia question. What is this red thing right here? See, it has the wheels up top there, and down at the bottom it's got other wheels on it. Kind of a T-shaped thing. Let me know in the comments section if you know what that thing is, and I'll give you the answer later on in the video. Alright, the moment of truth has arrived. Let's go on in, see what's in here. Pull the old door open, and let's see here. First thing, we have a old dolly there on the floor. Bunch of things. This has not been cleaned up yet, so I apologize. I guess I shouldn't apologize for the mess because I just bought the place, so I still have a lot of work to do on it. You can see there on the floor there's a lot of little critter tracks in here. I've been hearing some scampering around and scurrying around, so I think we have some raccoons in here. Let's start out this way. See my lamps there. Some kind of big tarp laid out there on the ground, but this is some kind of a milling machine or something, I'm not really sure. Bunch of electrical stuff there on the walls. Couple of double bit axe heads over there. There, and an old saw. And cables and things. Looks like an old outboard motor back in there, that green thing. Old shovels right there. Snow shovel. And I don't know what that blue thing is right there. Something to hook up to a tractor, it looks like. But I was told that this old door back in here is where the builder of this, the father, the son was saying that he put that door on the back of there to open that up to put wood in here, firewood in here. You say, why would you need the firewood? Let me show you. Let's go this way. You need firewood for this huge monstrosity over here. Ooh, now that's a wood stove. Okay, that's a big one. That's a boiler right there. American, what does it say? American Radiator Company. And that's quite the huge thing there. And the plan was that he was going to actually use this big wood boiler to heat the shop. You can see the ductwork way back in there behind it, and it goes back into the shop area of the barn, and that's what he was going to use to heat the place. And then he got an oil furnace in there and just said, oh, you know, easier just to use the oil. So I don't know what those blue things are, but here's an old torch, I guess, set up. If I'm not mistaken. Snowboard on the floor there. So that's what's inside the barn. Pretty interesting stuff in here. This old train car. But I'll show you some other things here in a minute. Let me just spin this around. But now I'm going to show you something very interesting about this property. We discovered this the other day. when you walk out to the south part of the property, there's some very interesting historical relics in the woods, including part of what I think could actually have come from a steam train. It's definitely some kind of steam boiler type of deal and whatever. Not sure if it's a steam train or something else, but I'll show you here. I'm going to take a hike back into the back part of the property and we'll check it out. Well, if you didn't know the answer to the trivia question from before, what that red thing is, that red metal thing with the wheels on it, now you can see. Here's a snowmobile, and underneath it is the T-shaped red thing. It's got the two wheels up front. You put your skis on either side of the wheels, and then your rear track goes on the back there. And you can move your snowmobile around without it scraping up the floor with the little metal strips under the front skis. And so yeah, you can move your snowmobile around wherever you need it to be moved while you're working on it. Alright, we're back here in the jungle, the deep dark jungle. No, just actually the back part of the property. And we have to hike up this hill here, and I'm going to show you some very interesting things that I discovered the other day. I saw this hill, saw a bunch of these big logs around. I thought, that's kind of strange. But it gets pretty steep up through here. So let me just kind of carry this thing on up through here. It need to have a better trail. I have to kind of hold on to this tree here if I won't slip and fall and drop the camera. Oh, it is really steep up this little hill here, and it's pretty loose dirt. Whoa. Almost need two hands to climb up this thing. Okay, we're up. So I get up top here, and I'm looking around and I'm thinking, wait a second, what's this back in here? In relation to the train car. You get back into here, and all of a sudden, I start to notice some interesting things. Let me show you. So here we have, this is part of a wood cook stove, obviously, like the border around it and things. But these tubes look like they're part of some kind of a steam powered something, and I don't know what. But typically, if you look at inside, they're too small for a steam engine, like the big thing inside the train. But I don't know, because typically they have these round tubes that go down through. And so let me know what you think. I mean, to me, that looks like it's part of something that used steam. Not to mention the fact that over here, look at that big piece of metal there. That sort of round cone-shaped thing. On top of that, you have the legs for a wood cook stove right there. And then you have this old pulley system. Here it says, you can read it there for yourself, the unloader, OK unloader. You see these little wheels up in here and things that would have been on some kind of a track. And then down below here, something else, and this is movable here to lock it in, but it says adjustable there. Steel bearing right there, but you actually have this old wood cook stove that's sitting on top of. Sorry for the bug noise if there is any. The bugs are flying around. Then what's this thing? Look at that big thing. I mean, I have no idea what that is. I have some very informed viewers, so that's why I'm showing this stuff. But there's just stuff all over the place back in here. Here's another one, old wood cook stove. It's a Noise and Nutter. That's I think from Bangor. Yeah, right there, Bangor, Maine. Manufacturing company, number 3. It's really a shame to see it back here like this. But I mean, these things take centuries to rot and go back into dirt. There's somewhat of you have to be careful back in here too because of old nails sticking up and things. But there's a more recent electric range. Old trees down all over everything. This thing, these chains here, they remind me of old tire chains for skidders. They've got that look to them. See how they kind of have it. They have these little like knobby things or whatever you want to call it coming up. They look like tire chains to me. They're big heavy ones too. And then you got these metal bands back in here. You can see these. I don't know what that would have been from. Looks like it's from old wheels or something. And these weird little rebar tic-tac-toe things welded together. No idea what that would have been from. There's an old air tank from an old air compressor, that gray thing right there, an old lawnmower. Not going to be doing much lawn mowing right now with that. And then if I can get around this stuff, back in there's a bunch of stuff too. Let me see if I can work my way back through all this. Old roof metal there with nails sticking out. Try to avoid that. And down there drops off pretty good. Pretty steep hill going down. But let me see if I can get over into here now. Get back in through this area. Probably come back in and clean this area up a little bit. But back in there's another very ornate old wood cook stove right there. It's on its side, or rather on its end, I guess you could say. It's kind of fitting. It's on its end because it is its end. Yeah, this is really thick stuff back in here. Hard to walk through this without getting all scraped up, but I'll do it for you, my viewers, my faithful viewership. All right, here we go. You can see the neat side on that. There's the front of it. The legs sticking out that way, so it's basically on its back. You can see down inside the wood cook stove there. So, I don't know what that thing is. An old blower or something, blower motor. Maybe moonshine still or something back in the old days. I can assure you that that's no longer what it's being used for. I'm not the moonshine type, but hopefully I won't fall down into something. But yeah, another old wood stove laying there to rot and die. What's caught in a cable back here. Give me a minute. Okay, I'm out. And more stuff. There's an old water tank right there. And old buckets and things. There's a steel grate that I just stepped on. But old, it looks like an old fuel tank right there. But I know that there was an old gravel pit back in here, probably down that real steep hill over there, and people would come back in here, and a lot of the old time people, they just would bring their trash back into the wooded area, and they would, you know, throw it back in some place to leave it to rot. Yeah, there's an old wheel over that way and all kinds of stuff, but the trees down and everything, it makes it very difficult to hike around back here. And like I said, it's dangerous because you have a lot of times old nails, and they didn't put the things so the nails were sticking down, and if they did, they might have shifted over the years. Boy, trying to get out of here. I'll tell you what, I'll just have to get my leg up on that thing, see if I can do this. There we go. A little bit of need to exert a little bit there. and it's down. Let me get back in through here a little bit. See what we can find back in this way. Exploring the wilderness here. Yeah, you can see some of the old barrels and things down in here. You can see that. A lot of old stuff. Kind of an old hitch there. And man, yeah, this is a steep drop off over here. I think I found the rock, the old gravel pit. I'll show you here. Goes down in there. Pretty steep. Go over this way a little bit. Some kind of a interesting thing here. More stuff over here in the woods. Let's see if we can get over here. There's something red over that way. Let's head that way. What do we have over here now? Tell you what, let me go back in this way. This looks a little bit better. Trying to keep the camera still too. Yeah, that drops off pretty good down into there. You can't really make that out on camera, but it's pretty steep. Some kind of a, looks like aluminum. Not sure what that is. Obviously would have spun around somehow. But okay, it's an old fender for a vehicle. See that? Right there, looks like the fender. There's the wheel well type of thing. Very interesting. And here we have, looks like the different parts of the motor. And there you have the motor over there. Don't think the pistons are in it anymore. Might have a little bit of corrosion in that block there. Looks like a 6-cylinder, I guess. V6 of some kind. All you gearhead guys out there, tell me what kind of V6 this is. Obviously it's an old one. Yeah. Pretty interesting. So I have to figure out how to get back out of all this mess. That can be challenging. But let me see if I can get out of here now. I'll tell you a little story while I'm walking out of here. We had a junkyard. Local farmer had it back when I was a boy. And they threw all kinds of stuff back in there, you know. It's kind of an early form of a landfill. Wasn't much of a landfill, it was more of a put it on top of the land. But and I remember we'd go down there and we'd shoot, you know, glass bottles with our BB guns and whatever else. Oh, there's a snowmobile. That's not part of the story, that's actually real. Ow. See if I can get the front of that thing on video. Right there. Let me crawl over this log here. Man, get back into these type of things and get all jammed up. But anyhow, I'll sit here on this log for a minute. And so we had this old junkyard, and my brother, my older brother, he was back in the one time trying to get some bottles or something to shoot, you know, with our BB guns, and all of a sudden he yells out in pain, ah, you know, and what's going on? He said, I stepped on a nail, and it just went right up through his shoe, right up into his foot. I think it even came out the top, you know, it was bad. And so I ran, I got my dad, and or not, maybe it was my sister. I forget which one it was first. But anyhow, went got my dad. My dad was a EMT for 25 years. And so he came down, he knew all the stuff to do. Get the nail out of the child's foot and everything else. And I think it was later that day or the next day or something, either my brother or sister was trying to explain what happened, and they walked into the same junk pile, back into the same area, and stepped on a slightly different nail. Same thing happened. My dad was not happy. He prohibited us to go to the junkyard for a while after that. Rightfully so. So I just hike back in here a little bit so you can get a better look at the snowmobile. That's an old Ski-Doo. There's an old bucket right there, like the plow or something. Not bucket, but an old plow. Interesting. And then over here, you can see that old Ski-Doo a little bit better. Pretty wild. There's the back end of it going over that way. That little rear grab bar thing and everything. So, alright, let me see if I can get out of here. Be careful. I'm trying. So, you say you never went back to the junkyard after that? Well, not at first, but we did go back. That's the thing. I try to impart some of that toughness to my son. And I want him to understand what it means to be strong in the Lord, of course, obviously most important. But just to have strong character. You have an accident or something, get back up. Go on, you're fine. You know, that's the way I was raised. I wasn't raised with being coddled every time I had anything bad happen to me. And young people out there, you need to learn to be tough. It will do great things for you. So, man, this is really weird to get through this. So, I don't think I'm getting down that way. It drops off pretty good, and then there's a whole bunch of trash down there. Alright, well, now you've seen what's back in there, and let me know your thoughts on some of those things. Are there train parts back in here, or is it something else? I don't know. And over that way a little bit, I have to get the bugs away, so sorry about that. But right over this way, there's an old manure spreader. My son thought it was for doing pavement. Different type of pavement, all natural pavement. That's good for the fields, but not so much that you want to ride on with your car. So I'm not going to be showing that in this video. Maybe in an upcoming one, if you really want to see an old manure spreader. Not really too thrilling. But hopefully you enjoyed the video, seeing inside the old train car, seeing this stuff back in here. Lots of things to discover on this property. So thank you again to everybody out there that subscribed, and we'll see you in upcoming videos.